Today we're going to do more Excel stuff. It's going to be a few different bits and bobs, just some things that are useful, mostly centering around text functions. But the first thing I'm going to cover is something that is really handy, that it's nice and simple, and a lot of people know about it, and that's something called data validation. Now, I'll cover this in depth later, although there's not that much depth to it. But basically, what it does, it restricts what you can enter into a cell. So here on my spreadsheet, I'm going to zoom in, make it nice and big, so I haven't got to put my glasses on. And then if I were to put in something like a field that said age, and next to it I wanted an employee's age, so if I was designing a form or something, and I wanted to restrict the age figure to something sensible, then I could use data validation as a way of restricting it. So in a really simple way, what I do is select a cell, go to the data tab, that's what that word is that I'm looking at, go to data, and then just over from the middle there's a button here that says data validation. Now to the right of it there's a drop down where you can check to see various other things about circular data, but all I'm interested in is the top one, or if I just click the main button, it'll give me data validation, here, something like that. So, in here, it currently says allow any value, which is what a cell currently do by default. I don't want to allow any value, I just want a whole number that is kind of age of an employee. So if I click on the drop down, I can look at my choices. Oh, whole number. That seems like a great place to start. I could choose decimal if I wanted to employ someone who's 23.5 years old, but I'm more likely to just say whole number. And then down here you've got our argument types. Now it's defaulted to between, which is perfect because that's exactly the kind of thing that I'll be looking for. However, I could say with all the usual sort of things like less than, greater than, not between, not equal to, that kind of remark. However, between is what I want. So, a minimum employee age, 16, 18, 21. How old do people start work these days? Let's say 18. Maximum age, what's retirement age? 78? I don't know.
It will be.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Give it, well, after this malarkey, we'd probably be lucky to get retired at 78.
Yeah.
They'd probably get a tax increase by that age. Anyway, so really straightforward bit of data validation there. I'm saying there's got to be a whole number, it needs to be between 18 and 78, and if I click on OK, and it looks and feels exactly the same. And if I type in 50, it works. If I type in my age, it works. Yeah, no questions, just plenty of laughter. Thank you. Whereas if I put in the age that I actually look, then it comes up with an error message. Or the age that I actually look. But it's not a very exciting error message, but you can improve upon that. So if I now go back to data validation, again on that same cell, just click on the main cell up there. Here's the criteria, which I'm happy with. I'm going to leave it set to that. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to put in an error message, a sensible error message. By default, the error message that comes up is pretty unhelpful. It's just a kind of like almost crash style error message. I did say I was going to do this in depth later, didn't I? Anyway, I'm going to roll now, so I'll carry on. So what I can do is I can change this from just being a stop, screech kind of error message to something more useful. So now I can just put in a title of age, and then here I can put obviously you can be as aggressive as you like with that. And then if I say OK, then if I type in the wrong age, then it'll give me a more meaningful error message. The only other thing to say on this, as I'm being comprehensive now, is the stop button. At the moment, this is what's known in Microsoft land as a stop. And a stop sign is accompanied by a choice of options of retry, in other words, try entering a proper thing in there, and cancel, or bring up the help file, which won't really know what's going on. So it's probably best not to click on that. That's what a stop button does. However, if I just wanted somebody to look at it and say, "Are you sure?" and then carry on, then I can use something other than a stop button. I've got two other choices. I've got warning and I've got information. And warning is the kind of thing that says, "You probably got this wrong." So I say okay to that, and then again, enter in invalid data. It'll come up with the same error message, but it'll give me a choice to say yes to continue. And then that way, I can still put the wrong information in. Or if I don't have a warning button, if I change it to information, this one you can use in an identical but completely different way. In that, if I say okay to that, it will still do the same thing with okay to let you carry on, but it will default to okay. So the idea of information, or the reason that you might use this, is you can put it on a whole column of figures where when people enter those figures, you want them to double check to make sure that they've definitely got the right figures in, because you can't do this again. That kind of scenario where someone puts the wrong data in, or the wrong serial number, or the wrong client account number, it's just going to screw things up completely. So then you can put an error message like this that says, "Have you double checked it?" And you go, "Yeah, okay." So you can just hit return and carry on working. But for anyone that thinks, "Well, hang on a minute, I might not got the right information," then it kind of alerts them. So that's the difference between an information, a warning, and a standard stop message. Anyway, the only other thing we can add to that, which is sort of useful, is the input message. And if I click on that one in the middle, then in there, you can put a description. So you can say, "Please enter employee age from 18 to 28. And so you can be as detailed as you like. But the thing is now, when I click on that cell, you get this little box, highlighted box. So that's basic data validation with a little bit of background information, or a lot of background information. I always forget to mute my phone. Yeah, that's it, done it. And so now what I'm going to do is move on to something else and come back to this in a minute. So I'm going to get rid of that validation. The easiest way to do it is to click on clear circles. That's not what I want. Click on clear. That's where I'm looking for it. Clear all. Now it's a normal cell. Yay! Or I could have just deleted it. That would have worked as well. We'll do it anyway now. Right. So that is that's the first bit. Now I'm going to look at importing data. With Excel, you can bring data in from loads of different sources. Excel is a great way of working with external data, whether that be in a database, from a database, downloaded off a website, or anything. You can do all sorts of wonderful things with data, and then you can send it back to where it came from, send it somewhere else, or leave it in Excel for further analysis. Now, quite often people will dump data out of an account system, or even, I mean, one that most people use is you download transactions out of a credit card statement. I mean, who wants to look at their credit card statement and tick things off when they can do it on a lovely spreadsheet? But it's a great way then of like reconciling stuff and making sure you know where everything went. But sometimes when you bring data in, it's not always from a nice, understandable format. Excel loves Excel files, and these days a lot of applications, a lot of systems can generate Excel files. However, a lot of systems don't, and they'll generate some kind of text file. The classic old form of text file is something called a CSV file. That's the one that anyone who started in the computer industry or worked in the computer industry in the 80s will know as being like the common format. It's like, oh, CSV, that's what you need. Do anything with a CSV file. But these days they tend to be text files that are just called text files or called something else, or delimited files. Basically, a CSV file has all the values in it, but they're separated by commas, comma-separated values, in fact, or variables, depending on your interpretation of it. Now, I'm going to start waffling and show you what I'm going on about. If I'm in Excel and I think, right, okay, I've got this employee file, I think. I've got this text file that I want to open. If I click on open, and then I go to browse my files, there's a load of dummy files there. Just so happens I've had it set to text. If I just have it set to all files, there's a load of files here. And one of them is called, there's a load of files here. This is where I save my training stuff. One of them is called text data. And it's a green one, so it looks like an Excel file. So I just click on it, open it. What could possibly go wrong? And open it up, and apart from the fact I need to zoom in to see it, it looks like gibberish. If I select the column headings and then double click on any one of the dividing lines, it automatically resize it to the largest size. And it still looks like gibberish. I mean, that's clearly names, that's fine. These are phone numbers. I don't know whose phone numbers they are. I made them up. I hope they're not real. Well, the dialing codes are. So these are phone numbers, but it's taking the zeros off the front, which is really annoying because if I wanted to then export them into something else or use them for something, they would no longer be useful. And there's a column here, which is supposed to be employee start date, but it's gibberish. I mean, we got this figure here, which could be a date somehow, but it really doesn't mean anything, and I can't do anything with it. So when working with a text file, if it's a nice structured CSV format, and when you click on it, it opens up in Excel and it all looks wonderful and valid, that's brilliant. That's a real time saver. However, if you're bringing it from a system that doesn't care about things like Excel and doesn't format dates in a sensible manner, then you need to import it. And the only difference, well, there's a big difference between importing and opening. Opening will open the file, so I've now got this CSV file open on my screen. Whereas importing will bring the document into the current file and it will go via an import wizard, something called the text to columns wizard, or used to be called that at one point. But this is how it looks. So I'm going to import my external data, this same data file. So go to the data tab and say I'm getting text and I'm getting it, well, I'm getting external data and I'm getting it from a text file. You see there's a whole bunch of other sources there. If I click on the drop down, there's all the good stuff like SQL Server and stuff, Microsoft Query, all that sort of stuff. But I just want to get it from a text file. So I click on text, and then it goes to my default documents folder, lists all the text files, of which there's one, oddly enough, which happens to be this one. When I click on that and click on import, it now starts up this text import wizard. Now, this is exactly the same data, but just by answering a few questions, it will hopefully be much more usable. So you can use this to import really messy stuff, or you can use it to import things like this, which are quite structured. In the olden times, when it was very difficult to export data from account systems, people used to export stuff by sending it to a printer file. And so it's formatted to go to a printer, and then you'd grab that printer file or spool file, as it would be called, and then you could do clever things to import that into the systems that you was working with. And this first screen kind of takes that into account because it offers you things like fixed width or delimited, and then asks what row to start at. So if it was a spool file, you'd probably say it's fixed width. So the first 30 characters is the person's name. Then there's 10 characters of space, and then the next 20 characters is the phone number, and it's that kind of thing. In this instance, it's not a fixed width file. It's delimited by, we can see there, by squinting, a comma. Each section has got a comma between it. So we'll leave it on delimited. Then it says which row to start at. Well, here, clearly we start at row 1, because that's the first line of data. There could have been a list of headers, in which case I could tick that, but there isn't, so I'm not going to. Or if it's a spool file, it might have had 5 lines like company name, name of the report, all kinds of waffle that I wanted to avoid. So depending where you're getting the data from, this is quite straightforward to answer. You just look at that at the bottom and answer it accordingly. Again, this was more relevant with the older files, but you still get systems where the data that's being exported just doesn't come across in a very helpful manner. So It helps to know about these things. That's step one. That's nice and easy. Step two. Again, this is pretty straightforward. Here we can see our data and we can see it's separated by commas. Easy as that. And by default, it says tab. Microsoft have this real bee in their bonnet about tab delimited files being the next big thing. And I suppose in a lot of cases they are, but nah, not in this case. It's going to be a comma. If I click in the right place, I can untick that tab. It could be a semicolon or a space or anything separating the fields. Or if it's something weird like an asterisk, you could even put an asterisk in there in the other box. But in this instance, we can see we've got the lines drawn down there, 3 different columns, 3 different chunks of stuff. So that's easy. We can get big and clever with the fine-tuning options, but I'm not going to go through that right now. I'm going to click on Next to a really important bit. Now, this is the bit where people often screw up and look at it and go, yeah, I'm almost there. They click Finish, and they end up with a result that looks like that bit behind there. However, this is one of the easiest things to get right. All you've got to do is look at the data and decide what kind of data it is. The first column is names, it's text. So I could select text, or I could just not bother. Because it's all written in text, there's no confusion there. I suppose if I was being thorough, I'd tell it that it's a text column. The next column, bunch of phone numbers. Therefore, phone numbers are text. And now you're thinking, no, they're numbers. Well, they're not numbers. Numbers are things you calculate on, like weights and distances and heights and values. Phone numbers, you don't do a calculation on a phone number. You type it into a box to talk to people. So it's text. And if I don't tell it it's text, it will assume that it's something that it wants to calculate on and therefore get rid of all the zeros. And then finally, we've got this last column, which again is defaulting to general. And it is a number, but the number in question is a date. We know it's a date. The system doesn't know it's a date. And last time I opened the file, it didn't even look like a date. So what I need to do is tell it it's a date and then tell it how it's a date by choosing the correct order from this drop-down. Now, if we look at one of these examples, look at the last one. We've got 12, 30, and 15. Now, that's a date. So I'm just going to work out which order it's in, which isn't that difficult with those numbers because 30 is definitely not a month, and it's definitely not. It's definitely not a month. Probably not a year, really. So the one in the middle is probably a day. 15 is probably a year. I had to think about this. Yeah, that's probably a year because that's definitely not going to be a month either. So I'm guessing the first one's a month, so it's going to be month, day, year. And let me just check that on the other ones as well. Month, day, year. Yeah, that would work. So now where it says day, month, year, if I change that to month, day, year, well, I don't think about that. Then in theory, it should look at those dates and convert them into dates. That's my 3 steps. They weren't massively complex, but now if I click on Finish, oh, it says, where do you want to put the data? Well, I'll put it right under the other data so I can look at the difference. I want to say OK to that. Splat. There it is. So what we have there is much better data. The text names are just the same. The phone numbers have come in as text, so they're no longer gibberish like those ones at the top. And they'll stay as phone numbers because they are a text field. Let's go over here. We can see up there in the number format, they're in text format. And the last one's a date. So if I want to know how long ago this person started in days, why would I even want to know that? I could easily just say equals today minus that field. And they started on that a number of days ago, which is really useful. Let's do this instead. It started almost 8 years ago. Crikey, what a valid employee Red Blogs is. So that's data import. There's 3 steps to it. You can apply it afterwards if you've got a chunk of data, which I'm not going to. But if you were to, actually no, I will. Let me just take these names here. I wanted to separate those names and get them into 2 columns. There's loads of ways of doing it, but I could actually select that column and go to data and text 2 columns. And it'll go through that same wizard. Yes, it's this, and it's delimited. It's delimited by a space in this case, because there's nothing else in there. And that's all I want to do with it. Destination A1. Better make it change to that one, I suppose. I'll just click on finish. There you go. Yeah, so that's text to columns, which does the same sort of thing. But I don't want to do that. I want to do some really cool stuff. So let's delete that and go back to this. Okay, so we're all happy with data imports? Yeah?
Yes. So if I scanned something across, saved it in Word, basically wanted it in this Excel format, you could do that with anything, basically.
Yeah, if it was in Word, you're probably better off copying and pasting it.
Right, and then do the same sort of thing.
Yeah, it depends what it looks like. If it's nicely structured, preferably with tabs or in a table in Word, then you can either just copy it and paste it, or you could save it as a text document. I'm not sure whether you can get stuff directly out of Word, and I don't think you can.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But yeah, I'd copy and paste it. That would work best with Word. But if it ends up being a text file, then just import it this way.
Yeah.
Or phone the help desk if you get stuck. I love this sort of thing. Being as there's no one from the help desk here. So yeah, if they get a problem, say, well, why don't you know? We did a perfectly good explanation of how to import stuff. Or have to phone Sue. Right, just need to click on something. Boom. Right, okay. So, good. Now, if I was to do more with this data, what I could do is I could get rid of those 4 lines there because they're rubbish. And they can then be headings. So I'll have name, phone, start date, and department. Now, this is quite big. It's going to be that big. In this column here, what I'm going to do is put in the departments that these people work for. And so I want these cells to be populated by the different departments. And over here, on a completely different sheet, but not in this case because I don't want to mess up the presentation, I'm going to have a list of all the departments that are these people might be working in. So there's going to be accounts, there's going to be sales, and there's going to be maintenance. I'll do, yeah. So I could put that somewhere else, or I could hide the column, or I could do whatever. Being clever stuff makes it look better. But here, I'm going to select these cells, or I could select a whole column, but just going to do those ones. And I'm going to use data validation again. And this time I'll go to the data tab, go to data validation. And where it says any value, I'm going to select list. So whole number, decimal, that's pretty straightforward. In fact, date, time, and text length is pretty straightforward as well. But list is the fun one. Now, if I click on list, down here, I can type a list, separating the different values with semicolons or commas. I know when I try it. One or the other. Or better still, you can just select a bunch of cells, like so. So here it says G9 to G11, and it's got the dollars around it to make it an absolute reference so that it doesn't go horribly wrong. I say it works on all the cells basically, but if I say OK to that, now when I go to department and go, oh yeah, where does Fred Block work? Oh, he's in maintenance. So I can just click on the drop down and go maintenance, and Jill's in sales, John's in sales as well, and Mary is in the accounts department. You save you loads of messing about, and then if someone was maintenance down here, I could just press M and it would know their maintenance. So a little drop-down box can be quite nice. If you've got a big old spreadsheet where you're analysing stuff and you've got loads of different cost centres or expense types, then you can just type those over to the side somewhere. You can click on that column at the end and then make it look at those different analysis codes. Then as you go down, you can go click, drop. And I do it on my accounts when I'm doing my expenses. I'll sort of say, this is hotel, this is fuel, this is alcohol, but whatever, different expense type is. But yeah, it can save you a little bit of time. It's quite cute as well. Plus, also it means you get the right thing. You're restricted. You don't misspell sales by typing it too quickly and not looking at the screen. Gets your analysis working properly. And then later on, if I decide I'm going to change that maintenance to maint because it's too big a word. I don't know why I picked up there to do it. I'm going to change that to maint. And under sales, I'm going to have marketing. So I'm going to insert the row there. And so I'm going to have, I don't know what the difference between those two is. So I used to do marketing is where you're trying to generate the sales. And then Jill's now been promoted to work in marketing. Yay. And Fred still works in maintenance, but he's just got a short department name. So it's quite cute. You can do that sort of thing. Well, we can call department something different, and then that new heading appears on the list. Anyway, I think that's data validation done. Moving on. So what we're going to do next then, text functions. Yay. Text functions are really useful. You'd be surprised about that. This is a bunch of functions in Excel that are really handy for all sorts of things, but you have to be told they're really useful because you wouldn't believe it just by seeing them. Now, with one of the text functions, we're going to look at left-right search. We're going to possibly look at concatenate and a few other bits and bobs. But they only really come into their own when you need them. It's one of these things, unless you won't look at it and go, oh, I can use that for so-and-so. That's unlikely. But what happens is when you're doing something and you'll think, oh man, I just want to do blah, blah, blah. There must be a way of getting rid of the first 4 characters of this account number and just getting the real stuff. Well, there must be a way of pulling out the third bit and putting that into my VLOOKUP. Or, it's one of these things where you'll only sort of know about it when you need it. And what I'm going to demonstrate now is something that there's a much easier way of doing, but I'm going to demonstrate it anyway because then you'll see how the functions work. So I'm going to start over here with length. I spelled that correctly first time. This is a really easy function. It's a function called len. It starts with equals because it's a function, because it's a calculation. Followed immediately by len and then an open bracket. And all you do there is you select a cell reference, or you can type a bit of text in, which wouldn't make any sense. In this case, A2, and that will tell you the length of the text in that cell. So if I hit return, I can see that the contents of A2 is 11 characters long. And I know you're thinking, yeah, but that can be useful. For example, if I wanted to know what the person's surname was, and just the surname, by looking at the length and looking at where the space is, I could then look at the length of the surname, and then I could use right to give me the surname, or I could use left to give me their first name. That's what I'm going to do, then it'll make more sense afterwards. So the next function I'm going to do is search. So equals search, open bracket. There's 2 bits to this. Yeah. Well, there's 3 bits if you use it a different way. But first of all, you decide what you're searching for. And again, I'm going to look at A2, but I'm searching for that space. I want to know where the space starts. So in speech marks, I'm going to put the space. In searching for a hyphen or an asterisk or searching for any character that appears in that cell, but in this case I'm searching for a space. and then comma, and then which cell I'm looking in, which in this case is A2. That's all I need to give it for this. I could say where I want it to start from. So I could say start searching from character 5, but that would be too complicated for this explanation. It wouldn't make any sense. So again, when you need this, you'll know why. But so searching for that space.
Sorry, why did you give it 2 speech marks? I don't.
Whenever you put text into a formula, you have to give it speech
Yeah.
marks, otherwise it doesn't understand what it is. And so what I've said is I'm looking for space, which is that character there, but I put speech marks around it to not confuse it. So it's a good question, because if ever you're doing anything in Excel where you're wanting to put a bit of text in, if you don't put speech marks around it, it'll go horribly wrong. And you'll think, well, why has it gone wrong? You've typed it in properly. But it's because it thinks you're talking about a named range rather than talking about a bit of text you want to see or look for.
Right, okay. Yeah,
Hopefully that makes sense. If, for example, I was looking for the letter B, B appears at 6. But if I type B in there, you say, I'm looking for a B. B appears at 6. But I'm not. I'm looking for the space. Space there. Right. So now, from that, I can work out the first name and the last name. So if I put first here, I can use the left function. The left starts at the left of the text, and then goes however many cells you are, however many characters you ask it for, forward. And so in this case, I'm going to say I want the first name, and so if I go left, open brackets, the text is in A2, comma, how many characters do I want to go? Well, I can just put H2, because that contains how far it goes. I'm going to close the brackets, hit return, and get Fred. And if I autofill that down, I'll get nothing. And if I autofill that down, I'll get all their names turn up. So by using the length function and the search function, I'm able to find out the first name. And then I'm going to do the same sort of thing with surname. Except here, I need to be a bit more detailed with it, because I'm going to start from the right. So I need to take start from the right and then go back. In this case, it'll be 6 spaces. So I'll be going back the length of the text minus where the space is. You see what I mean? It'll make sense when you see it. So from the right, open brackets, what text are we looking at? A2. How many characters do I want to go back? Well, I want to go back the length of it, so all of it, minus the word Fred, which is in H2. So minus H2, close brackets, hit return, that gives me blocks. And then I can also fill that down. So it's not immediately so straightforward and obvious, but if we look at that again, you can see, if I open that one up, I was saying start from the right of that text, go back as many characters as the first word. And the first word is the length of it minus the space. Right, the first word is up to the space. But that's it. Anyway, that's the equation. That's what I'm looking for. So like I say, this isn't going to be something where you look at it and go like, oh, I've always wanted to do that. And this isn't an example where I'd do it this way if I was creating this spreadsheet anyway. But this is just an example of how these functions work. So hopefully that makes some kind of sense. It's more common that what people do is quite often I go out to clients where they have imported 10,000 policy numbers. This will often be insurance brokers, like commercial insurance brokers, or people like AXA and stuff. And they say, right, I've got 10,000 policy numbers, 10,000 different policies imported. And whenever we bring it in from the mainframe, the policy number always has this weird thing at the beginning for 8 characters. But we don't even know what those things are. And we never use those or reference those. So how do we get rid of those 8 characters? And this is how you do it. You just say, well, start from the left, or no, start from the right, but go back this number of characters. or do this and trim off the first 8, or do whatever's relevant at the time. Or sometimes a salesman will say, well, I want to pull out data for that account or that product, but I'm only interested in doing a VLOOKUP on the 4th character along on that analysis code. And it's that kind of weird thing. So these are functions that aren't obvious about how they're useful, but they do have a use.
It's clever.
Pardon? You said you can take
I said it's clever.
Oh yeah, it is clever, yeah. But it's like magic. I'm not very good at magic, and I can only do half a trick. But I am a member of the Magic Semicircle. Anyway,
God.
Never mind. So moving on, if I wanted to say F logs in this cell here, what I could then say, working on this principle, I'd say equals. The first thing I want is F, and so I would just say there's no point doing any big calculations here. It's just the first letter, so that would be easy. So I just say left open bracket A2 comma 1 close brackets, hit return. That would give me the F of F blocks. Then I want a space afterwards. Now you can join text together by using the thing on the 7 key. Ampersand, that's what it's called, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah. The and symbol. And if I say and then put speech mark space speech mark, that'll give me F with text after, with a space after. Not that you can tell, but I could also say ampersand X in a speech mark. I could say F space X. So you can use that symbol for joining things together. You can also use concatenate, which is another way of joining things together. It's similar principle, but it just takes a bit more effort because you've got to type the word concatenate in, which is very popular with sesquipedalians, people that like big words. But I'll show you the concatenate version afterwards. That's not important. Anyway, basically I've got a space, and then afterwards I want to get the surname. So I've already done the heavy lifting here for the surname, but I'm going to do this all in one go so that I don't depend on all these other cells. So the function that I'll use would be write, open bracket, the text I'm looking at is going to be A2, so that's easy. And then all I've got to do is the calculation to get to get the surname. Now, that's where the fun comes in. The calculation was the length of it, so len, open bracket, A2, minus where that space occurs, which is search, open bracket, looking for text, comma, in A2, close brackets. Then close these brackets, and then in theory, if I hit return, that should say F blogs. Yay! And so I get F blogs, and of course I could fill that down, and that would give me all the other names as well. There are other functions, text functions, and I call them text functions because you wouldn't use them with numbers. It would make no sense. Functions like proper. Now, if I put the word proper, open brackets, in front of all of that, and then close the brackets, what that'll do is it'll give me the proper case. And so I can now auto-fill that down, and I get F blogs, G Smith, etc., etc. You can use things like upper if you want to make it uppercase, and brace yourselves for this one, lower for lowercase. Those are the commonly used text functions. What else have we got? Yeah, so, concatenate. Let me show you how to use concatenate, just because it's a nice big word. Concatenate, open bracket. All you do is, instead of using that symbol, you just use a comma between each bit that you want to join together. But it means you get to put the word concatenate in a function, which looks like you're doing something really cool. I'm going to need another bracket at the end if I do that. I'm going to hit return. There we go. So exactly the same result. You just a bigger function, like so. Good. Okay. Now, just to completely shatter the whole illusion, I'm going to show you something that I showed you the other day. You probably remember anyway, and that is a wonderful thing called flash fill. And so, ooh, where did I get that from? Don't want those rules there. Because I auto-filled this right next to the not auto-filled, because I did an insert right next to the column D. It's giving me all the column Ds and data validation. So I better turn that off, otherwise it'll be complaining. Clear all, clear all. Okay. Yeah, this is something which completely ruins the whole effort on that one. So if I now type in F logs, I can go over to the right hand side where there's a drop down for fill, and I click on the drop down to the right of it, and flash fill, and it just works out that that's what I want anyway. And so there's no calculation involved there or any effort, it's just done it by text. There's pros and cons to that. I mean, that's obviously very easy, but if somebody added more data, it would automatically, actually probably would. But if I imported more data, it wouldn't automatically populate. Excuse me, not like these wonderful ones here. So that is text functions. I think that's everything that I've listed for today. Yeah. Does anybody have any questions about any of that? No? Good. Any questions about anything else? No? Right, okay. Well, as usual, if you have any requests or think of any questions or anything, feel free to email me, or just ask you to. Oh, I've got a question on there which I didn't notice. Oh no, I have noticed it. When you have a list of dated information and you want to sort it in date order, the ones that will expire first should be at the top. Yes. Okay. Sorting. I just got a question there. I don't know if it comes up on all your screens, the chat box. It probably needs displaying or something. But I've got a question there about sorting dates, and it's really easy. All you do, I'm going to get rid of this stuff at the side because that just confuses the screen. There we go. All you do is you click on the date, right mouse click, and then go to sort. And then you can say oldest to newest or newest to oldest. And then it will sort accordingly, as long as you only select one cell rather than selecting a whole column. Oldest to newest, newest to oldest. Yeah, like so. I'll yeah, yeah. Dates are easy. Let me just put this down. Right, okay. I've the other thing I want to say about sorting dates is that you need to make sure they're in date format, because otherwise it won't sort it. It'll just get confused. And so that means typing it in as day, oblique, month, oblique, year, and then worrying about how you want it to look afterwards. So you can use any format once you've got it stored as a date. And I shall sort that in the other way of sorting it. Anyway, so I've had a request to do I've had a request to do the data validation thing again for departments. So I'll just run through this quickly. In fact, I was going to put it's got to do gender, but that's a nightmare these days. I haven't got enough cells for that. I'm going to put I just do department again. So if I use these as the department headings, no, I need to do something different. Give me a suggestion that I could put in this file for a drop-down box. No? We could say location. Right, this would be location. And down here we can have UK EU, US. So, oh, food allergy. Oh, no, that's too much. It's too late now. Yeah, food requirements. That's another one actually. I'll do both of those just because it'd be really quick anyway. So dietary requirements, dietary requirements. I'll do that next. So if I wanted to have the choice of this here, I'd select these cells, or I'd select all the cells, and I'd go to let's do those ones first of all. Go to data, data validation. I'll click on clear first of all because it's picked up the data validation from there because the way I inserted the column. And then if I pull it over there, I'm going to change it from any value to a list. And then here I'm going to choose the source of the list. And as I said earlier, it's quite common to just have a column somewhere at the side and then hide the column afterwards or put it somewhere where it's more suitable. I'm just going to use this so you can see it. So I'm going to select that list. And then when I say OK, I can now go location, EU, UK, US, like so. And dietary requirement, we can have that right next to it. We can have vegetarian, vegan. Is it spelled vegan? Done it right, yeah. There we go. And then here, again, I'm going to go to data validation. I'm going to clear the current rules. I'm going to say list, and then I'm going to use the source to select those. And then say OK. This guy is vegetarian. This guy has non-dietary requirements. I think I meant no by that. Let me change it to no. Dietary, no. Anything. He'll have anything, or she'll have anything. If I click on the box properly. Mary's a vegan, and Fred is a pain in the. Anyway, that's data validation. So good. Any other questions?
I think so.
Good. Okay. Tomorrow I'm going to do a presentation on cybercrime awareness. Now, hopefully, at least some of you will have attended our normal cybercrime awareness presentation, which everyone in the world should attend because it just saves you from getting conned, basically. But tomorrow's version, rather than being the normal 2-hour presentation, it's a cut down one. It's a brand new version of it. It'll only last 20 minutes to half an hour. And it's really suited or aimed directly at people that are working from home or in remote offices. It's just to make you aware of some of the new scams, some of the things that are easy to catch you out when you're working on your home equipment or when you're sort of like your resistance is a bit low because you might be a bit bored or frustrated with sitting at your desk. And there's a lot of things to consider now that are different than the usual cyber dangers. And so hopefully you'll come along tomorrow. If you've got any questions about any of it or any of this, or you think of any Word questions or Excel or Outlook halfway through the presentation, again, that's absolutely fine because that's the whole point of this thing. But that's the plan for tomorrow is same time, same way of connecting, and I'll just talk to you about some of the dangers of working from home.